right, everyone. Thanks for tuning into the Sports Card Therapist, where I give you a behind the scenes look at my hobby hustle and sprinkle in some self care and wellness on top of that. I'm Rob Gerard, your Sports Card Therapist. And whether if you're listening to me on iTunes, Spotify, or watching on YouTube, welcome to the podcast. And this is episode 119. 119. And this episode is called The Hobby is a War Zone. And I will get into all of that in a bit. But please like and subscribe, leave a review, leave a comment. If you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment, subscribe. If you're listening on the podcast, please leave a 5-star rating and subscribe as well. And ever since I've been really saying that for the last 2 months, my subscriber count and my streams and views have almost doubled. So that's really cool. And so shout out to everyone who listens or watches, because the show is growing as the hobby seems to be shrinking. So as it seems like people have like left the hobby, or have been tuning out just because comps are down, the money isn't there. The show is still growing, which is awesome. So I appreciate you guys very much for that. So I have an upcoming announcement in about 2 weeks. I believe the date is going to be Saturday night, December 3rd. So, Saturday night, December 3rd, I'm actually going to be doing an Instagram live, and it's going to be a vintage panel, a vintage showcase for all vintage collectors out there. I have some absolute heavy hitters, some well-known names in the hobby that are going to be taking part in this. So definitely tune in for that. I believe it's probably going to be 9 p.m. East Coast time, Saturday night. And I want to say shout out to Drake at Drake's PC for the idea of doing an Instagram live like that, because he did the wrestling one and he asked me to be a part of that. And then shout out to the captain, Kevin, for inspiring Drake to do that. You know what I mean? So it's like we all inspire each other. We all borrow from each other. So that's pretty cool. Also, want to give a shout out to Adam from PWCC on Instagram. He's the real 27 guy, for asking me to write an article based on my LeBron, based on my 2003 Ultimate Collection rookie auto numbered out of 250. He had reached out to me. He's got the magazine. You can get it in print or you can get it in digital form. He reached out to me and asked me if I would write an article on that, basically about what that card is all about, what it means to me, and kind of like what my journey was to get that card. So, Adam, shout out to you, man. You've been continuing to do amazing things for the hobby. The PWCC Top 100 iconic card list of all time. He invited me to partake in the ranking process. That was really cool, man. And Adam, you're continuing to do good things. And so this past weekend there were a few shows. I'll get into them a little bit. I want to say shout out to Laz at Laz NYC on Instagram. You guys know he's a familiar name on my podcast, one of the best promoters in the hobby. He put on a great show, a successful show in New Jersey, in Secaucus, New Jersey. The show was just steady the entire day. And I'm not going to get into the show too much because I have a friend of the show, Ken from Sports Card Lessons. He's actually going to be coming back on the podcast on Friday, and we're going to talk about that show in length. But I will be referencing that show throughout. And shout out to Scott DeMay from Sky Up Signings on Instagram for putting on, from what I heard, an absolute successful show at Mohegan Sun. I know the last show or two before that were like a bit disappointing from what dealers said, but from everything I heard from people, and these are people that will pull no punches, they'll tell me straight. And they said, man, the show was great. So shout out to you. It's a good look for Connecticut. It's a good look for you, Scott, and everything that you're doing over there. And I know that Sports Card Nobody Shane was doing. He did a panel, I think, with the Pokemon people, some of the Pokemon signers. He did like a panel Q&A. I heard that was great. So Shane, Sports Card Nobody, shout out to you. I see you, my man. You are coming up through the ranks. I love it. And I want to give a quick shout out. This is like the episode of shout outs, right? But to my guy Darren from Midlife Crisis Cards, and he's Midlife Crisis Cards on Instagram. Darren, for the gift, man. I mean, an unbelievable gift that he sent me. So he sent me a couple things, and I had posted about it. I had posted about it on Instagram, but I haven't had the chance to talk about it on the podcast yet. So I want to show you what it was that he sent me in the mail. He knows I'm a big Bill Russell guy. I spent a lot of season two um talking about acquiring the Bill Russell rookies and what my chases have been and stuff like that. So he sends me this piece of card art as a gift. Look at this thing. This thing is incredible. And what's crazy is you can't see the green on here if you're watching on YouTube because I have the green screen behind me. But listen, there's a huge Celtics patch there. I mean, the work is just absolutely incredible on this patch. And I believe it was Soup Cards in New Jersey that actually made this. This thing is incredible. It's a picture of him and Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain going up for a rebound, and this piece of card art is incredible, man. And these things aren't cheap because there's hours that go into creating these things. So, Darren, I don't know what you spent on the card, but I just want to say thank you so much, man, for that gift. I own two pieces of card art now, and they were both gifted to me by Darren. So big shout out to you, man. I appreciate it. And I know you listen to the show and just want to say thank you for that. So at the show I was just at, I was able to get some cool pickups. I set up on Saturday at the last show. It's Secaucus, New Jersey. I was able to set up and I got some cool pickups and I felt good about like how I was able to curate my collection. And I always talk about how setting up at shows is really like a hobby hack. I truly feel like it's a hobby hack. And I think that it can be intimidating to think about setting up at a show, but once you do it, just jump in. You know what I mean? Just jump in and do it, and you'll feel good about it. And the first show you set up at might be a success or it might be a dud. I know I've had to go through a few duds when it comes to setting up in order to get to where I'm at now. And I would have never been able to get to where I'm at with my collection if it wasn't for me setting up. So I got some cards. So as you guys know, I'm just going to show off a couple of them real quick. Because I know when I'm listening to people, to be honest, I really don't care what their pickups are. I really don't. So chances are you don't care what my pickups are. But as you guys know, I am after iconic rookies, and I'm good with getting some liquid cards that I'm not looking to hold long term. Just because my goal always is either vintage or iconic rookie cards. That's really always going to be my ultimate goal. So as long as I'm moving in that direction, that's all I care about. So as long as they are vintage or iconic rookie cards, that's awesome. I'm not much of a modern guy, but if a modern card kind of speaks to me, then I'll get it. So what I did was I actually picked up 5 iconic rookie cards, but they're not vintage. So and the grades aren't the best. So I'm happy with having them now and adding them to my PC. But if I need to move them to upgrade the grade, I'm willing to do that. So the two modern cards that I got, the first one, and there's reasonings behind all of this that I'm going to tell you about these acquisitions. I'm not just getting them to get them. So in my head, like they always say, like if your collection or your inventory goes to 0 tomorrow, would you be happy with these cards? And even these cards that I'm not sure if they're going to be long-term holds or not, even these cards, if they went to 0, I'd be happy holding them. So this first one, I'm a diehard Yankees fan, and this is probably the biggest prospect they have. It's Anthony Volpe, and I was able to get a Bowman Chrome Mega Box Prospect Refractor BGS 9.5. So if you look, there it is right there. It's the Anthony Volpe refractor. Comps are around 250, 300 on this. It's a BGS 9.5. I'm hoping Volpe comes up and ends up making the squad, making the team next season. So if he does, then I'll be happy I have that card. You know what I mean? But if I'm able to put it into a deal that might get me a bigger vintage iconic rookie, I'll do that as well. The next card I got was, and I'm not a modern guy, and I actually I'm not even in love with these inserts. I really don't like them that much, but it was there, it was available, and I got it for a good price under comps. This is a 2021 Emmett Smith Kaboom. It's a PSA 8, and I believe the 8 comps are it's like around $200. I was able to get it under comps from the kid, and, I mean, the raw cards are going for more than a PSA 8, so, if I ever wanted to move this card, I could always say, "Listen, if you crack it out and sell it raw, it could get you can get more money for that." But even though I'm a Giants fan, in the '90s, paying attention to football, I mean, everyone loved Emmitt Smith. How could you not love Emmitt Smith? He's arguably the greatest running back of all time. So every time I see an Emmitt Smith card, even though this is a modern card, because Emmitt Smith doesn't have any playing year cards or very rare. I don't know of really any playing year cards he has that are worth much because it was all junk wax. But anytime I see an Emmitt Smith card, it's nostalgia for me. Even though this is a kaboom, it's still nostalgia for me, which is pretty cool. So the next two cards I got the Patrick Mahomes Donruss rated rookie. This is only a PSA 8. I got it for $50 under comps, so I grabbed it. It's a liquid card. Next, I got same card, Patrick Mahomes Donruss rated rookie. This is an SGC 9.5. I got it for about 75 under comps, so I'm happy with that. I sold a bunch of stuff, made some sales, so I was happy with that. This next one, I actually did the flip challenge, the coin flip challenge. This kid that came up to my table was selling this card. Comps on this card are 300 right now, and this was like after the boom. Like they were $1,000 like a month and a half ago. It's an Aaron Judge card, but now they've come down there. The last comp on it was $300. He was like, "I'll give it to you for 250." This is the 2013 Bowman Chrome Aaron Judge PSA 10. I mean, this is way before he came up to the majors. You know what I mean? But PSA 10. So he said, "Listen, comps are 300. I'll give it to you for 250." I said, I think I'd feel better paying you 200. And he goes, "Let's coin flip for it." And so I actually recorded it. I had someone record the coin flip. I put it on my Instagram. I put it on YouTube. Within like a half hour on YouTube had 1,400 views on the reel. So I don't know how the real algorithm works, but yeah. So and I ended up winning the coin flip. So I ended up getting it for 200. So $100 under comps. I was happy with that. Then I picked up this Giannis Prism rookie. Right, there's a million of these. There's a million of them, right? But the Giannis Prism rookie BGS 9.5, I got it for right around comps. But I actually traded down a card in order to get a package deal that this was a part of, but I would much rather have these cards that I traded down to get. So that's what I ended up with. So I got the Giannis, and then the last one I got iconic rookie Joe Montana rookie card. This is a PSA 8. So this isn't the greatest. This isn't the greatest grade, right? A PSA 8. I think comps are only about $300, but it's a pretty cool Joe Montana rookie card, and it's a decent grade. And I'm thinking about holding this, not even putting it out in my case, and just holding it because it's an iconic rookie that I can add to my collection. So that's about it. I've already taken way too much time as far as that goes. So yeah, I shout out to everyone that showed me love at the show. Everyone that just walks up and says that they listen to the content and they enjoy it. It's great, man. I mean, every show I feel like there's at least 30 to 50 people that are just like, "Yo, man, just wanted to say hello, appreciate what you do," and being a positive voice. So I appreciate that, man. And my response to most people are, "Listen, if you keep listening, I'll keep talking." And that's why I do it. I really do, man. If I had 0 listeners, I don't know if I'd be 118 episodes in, or 119 episodes. And I just have to say that, like, if I had 0 listeners, um, you know, I don't know if I would. I mean, I don't do it for you, I do it for me, but at the same time, I absolutely do it for you, so I don't know if that makes sense, but shout out to Laz and, 22 cards on Instagram. His name is Tyler. Shout out to you guys for opening that Pop Century store in New Jersey. That's what's up. So, let's get into the topic because I've danced around this long enough, right? This hobby feels like a war zone. Okay. It feels like the wild, wild west. I know I'm not saying anything new. But I am going to touch on some various topics and incidents that happened recently. first of all, just in general, when you think about the hobby, how many billions of dollars are flowing through it on a yearly basis with very little to no regulations or governing body? It's amazing how self-sustaining this hobby can be, right? When a market has that kind of money that the card market has, you know that like the FBI, the IRS, they're just like dying to get their hands on it, but it's just like mostly a cash business, it's like this hobby thing. And but what I really want to talk about though is a few things, right? With no governing body over this hobby, really all we have are these unwritten rules about etiquette, right? How you should transact, how you should act. What are the polite ways to do things? What are the things you shouldn't do, right? Etiquette. The word etiquette just keeps coming to mind. We also have hobby watchdogs, right? We have the hobby watchdog accounts that we all know about. Um, However, even in the hobby watchdogs that seem like they have a ton of credibility in the hobby, sometimes they end up getting outed as having like these conflicts of interest, right? We have no idea what business associations these hobby watchdogs have, just like with content creators. But I think with content creators, if you have business, like I see it all the time, right? If you're sponsoring someone, you're shouting them out, or you're like, listen, I'm on the PWC payroll, I'm on the PWCC payroll, I'm on the collectible payroll, I'm on the PSA payroll, you know what I mean? Things like that. um, so at least content creators usually are open about that stuff, I think. I would like to think that they are. I know right now I'm not on anyone's payroll, so I'm just kind of, I talk and I say what I see and what I feel, and really that's it. But take for instance card porn on Instagram, right? Now there's a ton of speculation behind them, especially in the last few weeks. And I've messaged them in the past and commended them on the job that they do in the hobby, just like I have with other hobby watchdogs. I've messaged them over the last couple of years and just been like, "Yo, I see you. Keep doing what you're doing. The hobby needs you to keep people honest." So I've messaged accounts before, numerous hobby watchdog accounts in the past. But in the recent months, it does seem like a lot of these accounts have come under scrutiny, and for good reason, I guess, because in reality, what card porn says should not be held as gold, right? I think there was a point where at least I would look at things and like and if card porn said it, I would kind of take their word for it. You know what I mean? But I don't know what business associations they have. I don't know how they're trying to influence. Right? I really don't, you know? Then you have other hobby dogs that are almost like private investigator sleuths, and I'm using the term sleuth because I'm a huge fan of, like, true crime podcasts, and it's often times that amateur sleuths, and amateur detectives break open cases that have been cold forever, and they literally will solve cold case murders that the police could not solve. So, I definitely see a need for amateur sleuths in this hobby. But what I don't like to see are these amateur sleuths getting views and publicity by constantly being negative and tearing down people. To me, that's not cool. I honestly, I have no idea what their intentions are when they tear down, content creators or big names in the hobby. Is some of it warranted for good reason? I'm sure it is. I am sure it is. And I'm sure that these amateur sleuths and hobby watchdogs, to an extent, are trying to maintain the integrity of the hobby. However, some of these videos I see are so negative and geared toward tearing people down on a personal level. And I find that very disheartening and a bit ugly. And when that happens, I feel like I start to tune out some of these hobby watchdogs, which sucks because some of the stuff, if you kind of filter through the BS, I think some of the stuff they're saying is like really needs to be heard. But when they're constantly negative, it's almost like, the neighborhood barking dog, right? It's like you hear the dog barking and you're like, "Oh, shoot, something's up." But if the dog is always barking, you just tune him out. You don't even hear the dog anymore, And what happens if there is danger? Well, I've been tuning out the dog. So if that starts to happen with these hobby watchdogs, like, are they falling on deaf ears? You know what I mean? But the thing is, I think that they have big followings. So what happens is like, legitimately, like, cool people in the hobby end up, kind of becoming, like, public enemy number 1 and for really not good reason. I don't know. So, to provide some transparency for what I'm saying, let me just say there definitely seems to be some sort of like I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but some sort of like Illuminati, right, in the hobby. And I say this half jokingly, but there definitely seems to be like a good old boys club when it comes to the hobby. I'm not knocking it. I'm just calling it how I see it. Now, a lot of these guys that are at the top, right? They're in the top, whether if they're content creators or they're business owners or investors. I'm sure they've worked really hard to get to where they're at. But I think once you reach a certain level, it feels like, and it looks like from the outside, that they begin to get more privileged opportunities than others. It's no different than when you see people that have like gone to Yale college or Harvard and they like are part of these fraternities and wind up with a lifetime of exclusive opportunities that like the average Joe or the working man doesn't get, And I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying there definitely appears to be like a hierarchy with these big names in the hobby. And that's cool. All I'm saying is I do agree with the hobby watchdogs that they are needed. And since there is no governing body, they're doing that kind of work. However, sometimes I think that these hobby watchdogs can go about it in a nicer, more productive, and efficient way. And what I will say is very refreshing is when I meet high end dealers at shows and I set up next to them, like my man Jeff from Jeff's Cards on Instagram and my man Nick at the Slab Exchange on Instagram, like high end dealers, right? That have incredible, like $500,000 to $1 million collections in their showcases and they couldn't be more humble. Like that's really cool to me. You know what I mean? Like they are awesome human beings that will just let me pick their brain for hours on end. So I'm not saying all this negative and that the hobby is all negative, but I do feel like I'm starting to see more negativity, unfortunately. And I think when everyone in the hobby is making money and cards are going through the roof, it's a great place. However, just like life in general, when adversity hits, people's true character come out. So I had two separate incidents that happened at the show, the last show in New Jersey that I just set up at. Okay. And so my wife actually just messaged me saying, I need you downstairs. I said, give me 5 minutes. So so I had occur on Saturday, November 19th, right? One incident I was a part of, and another incident my friend Ken from Sports Card Lessons was a part of. And I'm sure we're going to go into more detail about the incidents on Friday's episode because he's coming on. But I just wanted to touch on it real quick because it really, like, the hobby is a war zone. This really goes along with it. So, right toward the beginning of the show, a guy walked up to my table. We started talking about vintage, right? And he said he was looking at my Babe Ruth card and he was saying he liked it and he really wanted to acquire one. But he just was kind of turned off because the pop is so high. And he said, because when you look at PSA, the pop on it, there's about 3,000 of these in every grade. I said, 3,000 in every grade? Like, that's almost like the Michael Jordan rookie or like the Zion rookie. You're trying to say there's that many. He's like, "Yeah." I said, "Dude, listen, I'm sorry, you're wrong." He's like, "No, I'm not wrong. There are." I said, "You're telling me there's 20 to 30,000 Babe Ruths, 1933 Gaudy Babe Ruths graded through there." He's like, "Yeah, man. Yeah, I know my vintage." So I'm like, okay, whatever. We'll agree to disagree. So he walks away, but he kind of walked away slow. He was looking at other tables. So I pull out my phone. I go to PSA because now it has me kind of curious. And I go to the pop report and the Babe Ruth Gaudy that I have that if you're watching on YouTube is right behind me. There are only 900 in total of that card graded. Every single grade included, 900 total. So I walk up to him and I showed it to him and I said, look, there's 900. And immediately he got like confrontational and he's like, "Yo, why you disrespecting me?" And he almost like postured like we were going to get into some sort of like physical altercation here, right? He's getting loud. Now people are like starting to get quiet and like stop what they're doing and like look at us. And he got so loud. And I mean, I just remained calm the whole time, which probably pissed him off too. But I just laughed at him and walked away. The whole situation was bizarre. Now, should I have, like, gone and chased him down to show him he was wrong? No, I probably coulda left well enough alone, right? But he was so confident in this fact, and, that I just wanted to say, "Listen, dude," like, almost like now, it felt good being right, don't get me wrong, but I also wanted to educate him because if I came out and I said something that was just completely way off base to someone in the hobby or even on my podcast, I would want someone to correct me because if I just walk around saying the wrong thing on a consistent basis because I think I'm right and no one checks me on it, I would rather look like a fool to one person than look like a fool to a ton of people because I just keep repeating the same rhetoric. So that's kind of what was going on in my head, you know what I mean? And that's the first time I've really ever had any type of interaction with someone like this in the hobby or at a show. And so my friend Ken, Sports Card Lessons, um, at the end of the show, now totally different incident, totally different situation, walked up to a dealer and looked at a card and said, "Hey, how much for that card?" The guy said, "Make me an offer." Ken looked up comps. Comps were only about 250. There were a ton of buy it nows on eBay for 299, right? And Ken said, "Okay, I'll offer you 200. Since you're like not giving me a price, I'll offer 200." And the guy looked him straight in the face and said, "F you." But said the swear word, "F you." Right, and my friends Ken said, "What? Are you joking right now?" Like, he was, like, so taken back. The guy goes, "I don't care what your phone says, go F yourself." A dealer said that to him. So, to me, it just, like it's kinda crazy, right? Like, here's the thing, I get it, right? Like, what I think's going on, is people are starting to really get pissed off at a lot of people. I think over the last 2 years, people are into their cards for a certain amount of money, and now that prices have come down, people are feeling that. People are feeling it. They're feeling that they lost money. People are upset. I get that. I'm into some cards for higher prices right now than they're worth. They've come down, but I'm a firm believer that we have every right to ask what we want for our cards. So, if I have a $500 card and I wanna ask 5,000 for it, I have every right to do it, and so do you. However, I should not get upset if someone laughs at me for asking that price, right? If someone wants to pull up comps and show me comps, all I have to say is, "Yeah, I realize that. I'm just high on the card. That's my price." I don't even know what else to say about that. I think everyone has the right to ask anything they want for their card. It's none of my business what someone's asking for their card, right? If I wanna buy it, I have a choice to either say, "Okay," or walk away. That's what it comes down to. Um, so before we wrap up, I wanted to talk about the $50,000 that Whatnot has been giving out to content creators for their, to go to shows. Basically, Whatnot is hitting up certain people, and that goes to like that hierarchy, right? That like Illuminati type thing. Like Whatnot's reaching out to only certain people and saying, "Here's 50 grand, spend it, but then I need you to come back on our platform and sell it." Right? So obviously these content creators that get the 50 grand, they're not keeping the cards. They're not keeping the cash. Now, are they able to keep the profit? I don't know. I don't know if they're able to keep the profit. That's a different I don't know. I have no idea. I would imagine so, but who knows? Um, I mean, I don't see anything wrong with this though. I really don't. I think it's a good thing. Whatnot is pumping money back into the hobby. They're pumping money back to dealers. Whether or not Whatnot is getting, making money off it, if they're losing money, I'm sure this is a bit of an experiment for them. I think if they make money, you're going to be seeing more of it. And it makes for good content, right? I think it makes for good content. So, like, I'm not mad at that. Um, but also, before I wrap up, this past week, I put out a question on my Instagram about conspiracy theories in the hobby. I got a huge response. I'm only gonna discuss a couple responses that I got real quick before I wrap up. And basically, my question was are there any conspiracy theories out there that you've heard of? Or that you believe in, right? I'm kind of going on this whole conspiracy Illuminati kind of kick, right? And here were a couple. So Iowa Dave said a conspiracy he's heard is that the 88 Fleer Billy Ripken, the F face card, was created intentional to create hype in an underwhelming set. Not sure if that happens. Now, Hunter Biden's laptop, shillbidding, so they're making it, kind of political here. Now, so people saying, well, the hobby's dead. Who knows? Grading companies are led by three blind mice. That's love what you collect. Um, Baldy Sports Cards mentioned that Golden Auctions manipulated the sales of the 720K Jordan that sold in February because they had 35 of them. I don't know if that's true or not. Who knows? But I think that when the hobby slows down like it is now and there's not as much money in it, I think people really are looking to point fingers, and they're looking for ways to kind of come up with content or stay active. And I think that's why I've continued to try to do side PCs. That has kept me active in the space. So I guess that's it from me, guys. Don't forget, hit me up on Instagram at Sports Card Therapist. You could hit me up on Twitter at card_therapist. And you can go to the website, sportscardtherapist.com. And that is about it, guys. I hope you guys have been enjoying season 3 so far as much as I've been enjoying recording it. And thank you very much, guys. Take care of yourself and your collection. Have a good one.